Hello everyone, thank you for watching So You're on a Study Permit and Want to be a CPA. In today's session, I'll be sharing a little more information on what you'll need to complete the CPA designation at CPA Atlantic School of Business, what type of studies will require a study permit, resources for finding more information on study permits in Canada, and tips on when to begin your application to us. I'll also be closing the session by going over some of those frequently asked questions. To start off, I'd like to share a little bit about us, the CPA Atlantic School of Business. The Canadian CPA designation is a nationally consistent program. However, there are regional schools across the country that offer the program to students living in each region. The CPA Atlantic School was created in 2014 by the Atlantic and Bermuda member bodies to deliver the CPA national program when Canada's legacy designations merged together in 2014. Our school is based in Halifax, Nova Scotia with a staff of 18, including in-market program advisors who are located in Halifax, Moncton, and St. John's, as well as over 100 contracted instructors across the region. Our programs and services are offered in both English and French, and we are a not-for-profit entity, Nova Scotia Private Career College, and federally designated learning institution. We are one of only 4 schools in Canada that deliver the full CPA designation. The other schools are CPA Western School of Business, CPA Ontario, and CPA Quebec. You would be applying to the school in the region that you're currently located in. However, because this is a national program, you are able to easily transfer between regions if you decided to move or were offered a job opportunity in another province. We're different than the member bodies in the sense that CPA Atlantic School of Business delivers the educational and practical experience component of the CPA program. The provincial and Bermudian member bodies oversee those who are recommended to membership upon completion of the program. So, for example, if you are a full member in good standing with an international accounting association that shares a reciprocity agreement with Canada, you'd actually be going directly to the member body to inquire about membership, as you wouldn't need any additional studies. If you're going directly to membership, you also wouldn't need a study permit, as you wouldn't be completing any additional coursework with us. Although the CPA courses are offered part-time online, they do have in-person elements such as in-person final exams and in-person workshops, which are mandatory. For that reason, to be eligible to study with us, you do need to be living in either Bermuda or one of the Atlantic Canadian provinces listed on the screen. For the remainder of this presentation, I will be sharing information on study permits as it relates to living in Canada. But for more information on study permits in Bermuda, I'd encourage you to visit the Government of Bermuda website. For those of you who aren't familiar, the CPA designation consists of 6 part-time academic modules followed by the common final exam. In addition to this academic component, there's also a 30-month practical work experience requirement. To be eligible to begin the CPA Professional Education Program, also called PEP, we assess 2 criteria: a recognized 120 credit hour degree and 14 specific business and accounting prerequisite courses. To determine where you would be starting on this pathway, you will begin by submitting an eligibility request form, also known as an ERF, with your student recruitment advisor. After submitting your form, your advisor will let you know what transcripts or supporting documents you'll be required to submit. If you studied outside of Canada, we will typically request a WES evaluation of your coursework. If you've studied within Canada, we're typically going to be asking for an official transcript to be sent by the issuing institution. The evaluation process typically takes between 6 to 8 weeks if you studied outside of Canada, or 4 to 6 weeks if you've studied within Canada. So please ensure that you are submitting your ERF in advance of when you hope to start studying. Once you receive your ERF results, these results are valid for 1 year from the date of issue. So if you're currently immigrating from outside of Canada, we'd encourage you to only apply once you're settled in Canada, because as previously mentioned, you won't be able to start your coursework before you arrive. When you receive your assessment results, our Senior Manager of Program Services will issue you a DLI letter of acceptance that you can use to begin your application for a new study permit, or apply for an extension of your current study permit if you're an international student graduating from a university within Canada. Do keep in mind our application processing time if you're a graduating international student and will be applying to extend your study permit. If you're planning on starting your CPA studies immediately following your post-secondary institution studies, that would likely mean that you're going to need to begin your application with us when you're beginning your final semester of studies at your university. The CPA certification program is a professional training program. Because there is both a part-time academic component and a 30-month practical work experience requirement, you will need both a work permit and a study permit. Although we can issue the DLI letter of acceptance you can use to apply for a study permit, we're not able to assist you with obtaining authorization to live and work in Canada. If you have questions regarding pathways that may be available for you to move to Canada and work in Canada, I'd encourage you to connect with a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, also known as an IRCC for short. They'll be the best people to talk about your options with you. You can also find more information on studying and working in Canada as an international student on the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, also called IRCC, website. It is possible to possess both an open work permit and a study permit in conjunction. These study permits will be for part-time studies, so you would not have the status of a full-time student the same way that you would if you were applying to full-time studies at a university. Because the CPA designation is a part-time professional program, please keep in mind that the CPA certification path does not entitle foreign nationals to a post-graduation work permit as issued by IRCC upon completion. Neither would you be able to bring a spouse over on a spousal work permit. When you submit an ERF, our Assistant Registrar will review your previous education to determine where you'll be starting your CPA path. In today's session, I'm not going to be sharing specific information on the pathways that are available. So if you're interested in finding out more about these different pathways, I'd encourage you to watch some of our other So You Want to Be a CPA videos, which can be found under the Future Students tab on our website. Holding a study permit as a temporary resident is required for CPA preparatory course studies lasting longer than 6 months and entry into the CPA Professional Education Program. So what does this mean for you? Depending on where you start your CPA path, you may be able to start your studies while you're waiting for your permit to arrive. To start off with, if you're missing some of our 14 prerequisite courses, you'll likely be starting with us in our preparatory courses. As these courses are only 7 weeks in duration, you can enroll and get started on your first prep course with us while your study permit is processing. However, you would still need a study permit for future studies, so even though you can begin your first course, we'd still encourage you to apply for your study permit as soon as your eligibility results are released. If you're starting in the Professional Education Program, also known as PEP, the entire program duration is longer than 6 months in duration, so you would need to obtain a study permit before you can start your first module. Whether you're starting in Core 1 or you have advanced standing and starting in the capstones, either way you will require a study permit. Now, certain students who receive advanced standing as a member of an IFAC organization may be eligible to advance directly to the Common Final Exam, also known as the CFE. For students in this category, we would still encourage you to apply for a study permit for multiple reasons. While you don't necessarily require a study permit just to sit the final exam by itself, if you were unsuccessful in the exam, it would then be considered studies of more than 6 months in duration, and you'd be needing to apply for a study permit before you could reattempt the exam. Additionally, although you may be able to advance directly to the Common Final Exam, we'd still strongly encourage you to take the capstone modules, as information covered in these modules appears directly on the final exam, and taking these greatly increases your chances of passing on your first attempt. If you decide that you're going to take either of these modules, you would also require a study permit. So for this reason, it's best to apply for a study permit right when you receive your assessment results. So just as a brief recap, regardless of where you're starting your CPA journey, we do still encourage you to apply for a study permit as soon as you receive your eligibility assessment results. Once you have your DLI letter of acceptance, the forms to apply for your study permit can be found on the Government of Canada IRCC website. In addition, IRCC has application packages available on their website which can guide you through the application process. I'll be sharing a link to where you can find this in just a moment. On the IRCC website, you can also view the current study permit processing times in your region. I encourage you to keep an eye on these processing times as this may determine what semester you may be able to start your studies in. And as promised, here are some of the key links to help support you in your research. Your key resource for all information on all matters immigration related should be that Government of Canada Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada website. On the website, that's where you're going to find information on how to apply, what is needed, and more. As mentioned, IRCC has detailed application packages and guides that go along with completing them. For more information and to find these guides, please visit that link listed on the screen. You can also check the current processing times for your study permit applications so that you know how far in advance you're going to need to get your application started with us. As a reminder, it typically takes 6 to 8 weeks from the time that you've applied to us to receive your DLI letter of acceptance. So make sure that you're allowing enough time both to have your application reviewed by us and to apply for a study permit. While we do have a regulated international student immigration advisor, also known as IRCC, on staff here at the CPA Atlantic School of Business, they are only able to provide advice regarding study permits. So if you do require advice on immigrating to Canada or your work permit, make sure that you're using someone who is authorized to provide that immigration advice. If you're unsure how to know if someone's authorized, you can also check on the IRCC website. Now, as promised, to finish our session, I'm going to quickly recap some of our most frequently asked questions. Now, as our courses contain in-person aspects, you do need to be living in one of the Atlantic Canadian provinces to begin your studies. As a reminder, as your eligibility results are only valid for 1 year from the date of issue, we would only encourage you to begin your application with us when you arrive in Canada and are ready to get started in your studies. Once we review your application, we will issue you a DLI letter of acceptance that you can use to apply for a study permit. As the CPA designation is a professional training program, you are required to possess both a study permit and a work permit together. Depending on where you'll be starting your studies, you may need to wait until your study permit arrives to take your first course with us. So make sure you're leaving yourself plenty of time when you apply. Finally, as a professional training program, please keep in mind that you won't be entitled to a post-graduation work permit after you complete your studies. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video today. We hope that you found the video informative and look forward to welcoming you as a student to the CPA Atlantic School of Business in the future.